Iran has been marching towards an ICBM. They've hidden some of that development under a so-called space program. I don't think anybody expects to see any Iranian astronauts on the moon, but that's what they've been hiding their booster production in contravention of sanctions behind for some years. They have developed a reentry capability with these intermediate range missiles, and all you have to do is marry up the two with a nuclear warhead. As a UN ambassador, I've cited to the Security Council the 2 decades of Security Council resolutions that countries have voted for around the world to ensure Iran doesn't have a nuke. But President Trump isn't just going to send strongly worded letters. When it became clear they were not negotiating in good faith, after he gave diplomacy a chance on multiple occasions, he's taking decisive action before it's too late.
And that's the UN ambassador, Michael Waltz, with me yesterday, warning that Iran has hidden development of re-entry capability for long-range missiles in a so-called space program. Now, the missiles that were fired toward Diego Garcia Island indicated that these missiles can travel long enough to actually hit much of Europe. U.S. and Israeli forces carrying out fresh waves of strikes against Iran as the clock ticks down on President Trump's threat to Tehran to open the Strait of Hormuz. The president wrote on Truth Social on Saturday, quote, if Iran does not fully open without threat the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours from this exact point in time, the United States of America will hit and obliterate their various power plants, starting with the biggest one. Meanwhile, GOP lawmakers discussing a $200 billion Pentagon request for the ongoing conflict in Iran. Lawmakers are weighing whether to attach the defense funding to a reconciliation package to create urgency and help secure the passage. And, of course, the reconciliation package would be before the midterm elections. Joining me now is Texas Congressman Chip Roy. Congressman, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Are you in favor of reconciliation?
Good morning, Maria. First of all, I've been watching your program this morning, and, leadership is hard. The president of the United States, President Trump, is leading to defend the United States. And what we've seen in the reports that have been coming out is the extent to which Iran's capability is, in fact, worse, or I'd say, better in terms from their perspective. Their ability is greater than they were saying to the world. And that's always the case. And this is the important piece here is the president's trying to look down the road and build a stable world for our kids and grandkids. We've had 50 years of attacks out of this dangerous regime in Iran. So Congress is now looking at all of this and standing behind the president and making sure that we defend the United States and defend our interests in the long term. Now, about the $200 billion, that's a big number. There's a lot of people I represent, Maria, who, aren't looking to be involved in another 20-year war or building soccer fields in Tehran like we were trying to build soccer fields in Baghdad. But to the extent that we need to rebuild our munitions, make sure we've got plenty of capability, missiles, drones, a strong Navy, et cetera, going forward, we're going to have support for that. But a reconciliation package is the best way to do it. So we can pay for it, so we can figure out the right way to do it, and so we can get it done the way we did with the big, beautiful bill. Remember last year, Maria, we came up with $150 billion for defense spending, which we were able to get packaged in the big, beautiful bill. So we'll be working and trying to deliver to make sure that we can get it done. But we got to pay for it, and we got to make sure it's for the right purpose. The people that I represent, they don't want endless war. But the good news is neither does President Trump.
Yeah. No, I understand. And we spoke with Senator Lankford on Friday, and he was talking about part of the money needs to go toward drone protection because the Iranians have used these cheap drones to threaten $100 billion tankers and cause a standstill at the Strait of Hormuz. Do you have a sense of where the money would go and what the right number would be? I mean, we started this conversation at $50 billion. And now you're talking about this request of up to $200 billion. So what specifically do we need? I know that we can't make weapons fast enough. And that was happening even before the Iran war.
Yeah, no, Maria, that's exactly right. And those are the questions that we're asking on Capitol Hill. Those are the questions that we're asking of Secretary Hegseth and of the administration. We've got to get this right. We have not been producing the missiles fast enough. We're not producing what we need to make sure that our military is strong as it needs to be fast enough. But we are working on improving that, and the Secretary is doing that as well. And again, that was a part of what we did last summer when we put $150 billion into this. Remember, take a step back. Our military was being decimated under the Biden years. Go back over a decade ago under the Obama years. We've had President Trump trying to rebuild our military, get people who want to, enlist, want to join the military. We've had admissions up at the academies. We've got people, excited about being a part of it again, getting rid of all the woke agenda. All these things are interrelated. Yeah. So now we're trying to make sure we've got the tools necessary to defend our interests. Now we're engaging in Iran. So what we don't want is for the swamp creatures, the people who live off of this, who get rich off of this, to be the ones deciding the policy. We want to make sure we work with President Trump to have the strongest capabilities going forward, but not just feed the war machine. So to the extent that we are going to get in and out quickly, knock the knees out from under the regime, take out their capabilities, whether they're nuclear or conventional, defend our interests, but then get out, then I think there's strong support for then rebuilding our defense if we pay for it in a reconciliation package. But what we don't want are boots on the ground endlessly that increases costs and endangers Americans. That's not where the American people are. But again, I don't think that's where the president is either.
I want to move on to the DHS, but do you feel that there is support within the House for another reconciliation package?
Only if it's structured properly. I'm on the budget committee, and I worked hard last year, as you know, Maria, to get that thing done. And we'll do it again. We'll do what's in the interest of the country. But, in order to get that put together, we've got to have everything add up, and we've got to make sure we've got the right components together to deal with paying for it and getting it all done the right way.
Well, Congressman, obviously this morning we were talking about a deadly accident at LaGuardia Airport. The airport is closed after a runway collision that killed the two pilots. We need more information on this in terms of why it was that an Air Canada Express regional jet arrived from Montreal and struck an emergency vehicle while landing at LaGuardia, why that emergency vehicle was there. I guess that vehicle, the fire truck, was responding to a separate incident. Why was that truck in the way? What's your sense of what investigators are looking at? I know that Senator Markwayne Mullin could be confirmed as the new Homeland Security Secretary as soon as today, after the Senate voted to advance his nomination yesterday. What can you tell us about that? And will we have the Department of Homeland Security Secretary in place soon? And will DHS open?
Well, first of all, I do believe after Mark Wayne got over the hurdles over the weekend, getting to the next round of this, he will get confirmed. I think they'll be able to move forward with that. Obviously, we're watching the Senate as it's continuing to debate the Save America Act, which I'm obviously a strong supporter of. But importantly, right now, what you're seeing is this difficulty and the concern with the DHS funding that is totally unnecessary. I mean, Maria, this is just playing politics. We've got the conflict in Iran. We've got serious issues at home. We've got Coast Guard. We've got FEMA. We've obviously got to continue to secure our border. And Democrats refuse to put funding together for the Department of Homeland Security. Say that out loud. I'm sorry to make this so basic, but this is a time when you're supposed to put aside partisan politics and move forward and do the right work for the American people. So I don't know whether this is connected to what occurred at LaGuardia. That was obviously something that is troubling and we need to investigate and look into. But when you're taking money away from the core agency responsible for dealing with a lot of these issues, and when you've got to deal with TSA and all of the stuff that is now being weakened by Democratic political posturing, then you have to wonder whose side are they on? Right? This is not just good faith sitting down and having a debate over a handful of disagreements. This is just literally refusing to fund an important department for political purposes to try to win an election.
That's awful. Congressman, real quick, in terms of an election, you are the primary driver of the SAVE Act within the House. I talked with Senator Mike Lee yesterday, who is the driver in the Senate. What's your take on what went on over the weekend? Was that just all show? I mean, what is the SAVE Act any closer to getting to President Trump's desk?
Well, my view is the same as Mike Lee's, which is that every day that Leader Thune puts on the floor of the Senate a bill that has the support of 80% of the American people to ensure that only American citizens vote and to ensure voter ID, that it is a day closer to forcing Democrats to agree to it. Much like the Civil Rights Act of 1964, having the Senate work, having the Senate debate, having the Senate show up is half the battle, because they've been shut down for forever. But like, Maria, this is a fundamental issue. Like, the reason I'm running for Attorney General of Texas is because we're going to lose our country, Maria, if we don't enforce the laws, protect our sovereignty, and stop what the Democrats are trying to do to steal the elections and steal our country. So we've got to do it. And God bless Mike Lee for staying the course. I'm going to stand alongside Mike as he does this in the Senate.
Well, he told me yesterday this could go on for weeks, and maybe that's by design. You want to hear the Democrats explain such a position. We'll be watching your campaign for AG in Texas as well, Congressman. Thank you, sir. Chip Roy joining us this morning.
God bless, Maria.
In Texas. Thank you, sir. God bless you. We'll be right back.